Hey, howdy, and a big welcome back to Clemhawks, folks. I'm Yak, ready to take you through another edition of Minnesota Wild discussion here on the channel today. Yeah, I know that is kind of wild. We've been talking Twins all summer, but now all of a sudden you are into the meat and potatoes of the NHL offseason, and there's just way too much opportunity here for my man Clem to get remonetized that we cannot ignore the NHL. So folks, if you want to buckle up for the next little bit here, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot covered in this video discussing Cam Talbot and, of course, what has been heavily rumored this offseason, the Minnesota Wild moving on from Cam Talbot. I know Bill Guerin had the presser the other day where he said, no, you know what? I got nothing to do here other than hold my chips and see what happens, right? Because Cam Talbot currently under contract for this upcoming season, about $3.7 million against the cap. But there is a lot of services teams require from a goaltender like Cam Talbot currently, and specifically, as you saw in the title today, we are discussing the Edmonton Oilers. Why are we discussing the Edmonton Oilers? Oh, geez, Yak, I wonder. Those have anything to do with it? Yeah, probably a little bit, to be quite honest with you. As you can see here, if you're wondering what's going on, I'll just throw, nope, I'll just see that was an Oilers graphic itself. I'll just take this banner off. Oh, bang. So, my man Clem getting some help from me today here on the channel discussing things, because this is a wild topic, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to steal a Minnesota sport oat from underneath them. So, let's discuss Cam Talbot to the Oilers on Clemhawks today, right? I said, you know what, this is a great opportunity to take advantage of a hot NHL market on YouTube and try and get my man remonetized as quickly as possible. Baseball will continue. Clem will be back with some Twin stuff right away. I'm sure I might even have some Twin stuff today if I can get my butt in gear, but we find ourselves discussing Cam Talbot, who, like I said, Bill Guerin does not see that he has to move him. That's not a I must do move from Bill Guerin. So this video is by no means a slam dunk. Cam Talbot's going to Edmonton. Sign me up, both as an Oilers fan and as a guy discussing it from a Wild fan perspective. No. That's not what this is. If that's what you're looking for, my apologies. But folks, what I'm saying here is similar to the Patrick Kane discussion on Dolly TV yesterday. It's one of those things that both general managers, whether it be Bill Guerin, whether it be Ken Holland in Edmonton, should have on the radar. Why? Simply put, look at the factors for the Oilers on this side, right? Take your Wild fan hat off for a second and go look at the factors as an Edmonton Oilers fan. And this is where I'm going to come in real handy for you. The Oilers have Stuart Skinner in net guaranteed next season. Okay, all right, well, that's one. We need two. And what you're looking at is either I've done multiple videos on Dolly TV detailing you're either looking for a backup to Stuart Skinner who lets Skinner take the leash and run for a bit, and then when he falters, he comes in and saves the day, or you're looking for a guy to split time with Stuart Skinner. Now, you kind of look at Jack Campbell, you kind of look at Ville Husso, who's now off the market in Detroit, you look at the goaltender moving around Colorado, you look at the goaltender going to New Jersey. All of a sudden, you don't have as many options if you are the Oilers as you had previously. So now you reassess, right? Obviously, the big fish is over there in Winnipeg if you're going the trade route and Connor Hellebuck. And could you imagine what that would do for an Oilers run? But a big fish in terms of maybe getting things right necessarily too is Cam Talbot for the Oilers. He would be a guy who knows what it takes to be the guy in Edmonton, knows what it takes to take the Oilers to heights that they haven't achieved in a while, right? Obviously, the first playoff run since 05-06 was captained by Cam Talbot in net, who had a career year for the Oilers that season and also had a very stellar playoffs to get us all the way to the second round, Game 7. So now you talk about what an experience that adds to a guy like Stuart Skinner. And now from a Minnesota Wild perspective, you look at, okay, there is a general very big need from the Oilers for a guy like Cam Talbot. Fair. There you go. You've just created yourself a market. There will be another one, and it's coming right now. Nope. Just kidding. Anyway, So, right, you've created the need for Cam Talbot if you are Bill Guerin just by simply looking at the Edmonton Oilers. So now, technically speaking, what I'm saying here is this needs to be on Bill Guerin's radar just simply because there is a need, there is a situation where you can take advantage. I don't know to what extent, right? I'm not talking that the Wild are going to be absolutely able to fleece the Oilers in a trade. I mean, Ken Holland is the general manager. I don't have the guts to say that on my own channel, is what somebody's going to accuse me of here on Clemhawks today. But it's one of those things, right? Is it works both ways, and the Oilers are the one in need here, whereas the Wild are the one in the position of strength, right? If you're going to run Cam Talbot and Marc-Andre Fleury as a goaltending duo, you're going to be just fine in today's NHL, even if Fleury is 38 or whatever going into this season. So, that's what you're looking at. Those are the basic facts of the matter for the Oilers and Wild. Now, you break it down here. The Wild, a team, right, they need young guys that aren't going to cost too much, guys that want to thrive in opportunity, guys that aren't necessarily going to break the bank because of the buyouts of Parise and Sudo are coming into effect this season. Right, there's a lot you got to kind of manifest here to build a good winning team if you are Bill Guerin. And at the same rate, you want to have pieces that even if you don't win this season, aren't successful in getting into the playoffs, are around and able to be a piece of the future once these buyouts kind of lessen off and you are able to really start going after guys that you want to be aggressive. So, again, to the Minnesota Wild's point of dealing from a position of strength, you look at Edmonton and you say, yes, Puljujarvi. Bang, right? That's an easy get. That would be perhaps probably exactly what it would take to get Cam Talbot, or at least a majority of the price. So, for the Oilers, you're already looking to move on from Yes Puljujarvi by all accounts necessary. Why wouldn't you try and look at, okay, can we manufacture something here based solely on Puljujarvi plus something? What do we have to do to manufacture it? And for the Oilers, I don't think it's dire. We need Cam Talbot and that's it, that's all, that's the only solution. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination either. But with something similar to the Patrick Kane video I did last night, it's something you have to absolutely have on the radar if you're Ken Holland. It's something you absolutely have to have at least a couple of discussions with Bill Guerin on. Whether it's ever even gets close to what do you want. I don't even care if it ever gets there. Simply put, all I care about in terms of what the Oilers do here on kicking tires on Cam Talbot is the appearance that, okay, there is some kind of thought process on who's available, who we want, and who we could use. And that's kind of the question that is exactly what Cam Talbot fills, is he is available. Not necessarily, right? Bill Guerin hasn't said, hey, fire sale on Cam Talbot. But he's also kind of made it to his advantage where he says, I don't have to do anything, but that's because I'm dealing from a position of strength. That's what Bill Guerin has basically stated on the Cam Talbot front. Right? Cam Talbot solves an issue for the Oilers. He gets to be a steady Eddie goaltender that's going to split time with Stuart Skinner. I think that's a pretty fair statement for Cam Talbot, who's been kind of that goaltender over the past 4 seasons, right? Since that real rough year in 17-18 and then the down year in 18-19 with the Oilers, then going over to Philly, then going to the Flames, and now the past 2 years in Minnesota where he's had 2 very decent years and played 8 playoff games. But you kind of look at it here for Cam Talbot too, is he's at 35 years old. So you're bringing in a 36-year-old goaltender by the end of his contract next year. Right? So that's right now he just turned 35, so he's a fresh 35. But one of those things too, where right you're bringing in that veteran experience, and again dealing from a position of strength. If you're Minnesota, the Oilers locker room. I'm not saying Ken Holland. Actually, Jay Woodcroft does know. The head coach of the Oilers does know what they're getting in him. But for the Oilers locker room, you know what you're getting in Cam Talbot. If you're Stuart Skinner, I imagine you're excited by that. Knowing that this guy's played here. This guy knows how to handle the situations I'm about to face over the next 5-10 years. This guy knows what it takes to win in Edmonton and do stuff that hasn't been done in a while. And the only thing left that hasn't been done in a while for the Oilers is winning a Stanley Cup. We achieved everything this season. This, me, an Oilers fan, to you, a Wild fan, hopefully tuning into this Minnesota Wild discussion here on Clemhawks because it's a Minnesota fan channel, is simply put, you know what? There's nothing left to achieve except winning a Stanley Cup for the Oilers. Now, the hard sell as me, an Oilers fan, to fellow Oilers fans, is Cam Talbot the solution that wins you a Stanley Cup? No, it's the other moves that'll have to really make that one up. But again, in this case, I'm looking at Stuart Skinner to be my starter for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs if you go after Cam Talbot. And that's how much faith I have in Stuart Skinner. Quite honestly, that is how much faith I have in Stuart Skinner. So, that is, at the end of this discussion, what we're looking at. Bill Guerin is dealing from a position of strength when it comes to trading Cam Talbot. The one trade that I can see from a very lopsided, one-sided perspective as an Oilers fan is it makes guaranteed sense that Minnesota is looking for assets that the Oilers have, cheap, usable forwards, in exchange for a goaltender under control next season that is a known commodity in the capital city of Alberta, Canada. Right? That's where we're sitting. I think that makes 100% sense for both sides, right? Bill Guerin knows he can get something good. The Oilers know what they can get in Cam Talbot. Now, is it a perfect situation? Is it the end-all be-all move that wins the Oilers the Stanley Cup, or it helps the Wild solidify their playoff run? No, this is to an extent a do-nothing move from both teams. To be more brutally honest about it, is it's not a put you over the top move. It's one that just solves the need on both sides and shake hands. And if it turns out for both teams, it looks like a really good business transaction at the end of it. Other than that, one side wins, the other side loses. That's hockey. But end of the day, it's one of those moves that could be brilliant on both sides, could suck on one, or really, just simply put, be a paper transaction that doesn't do anything for either side. But that's the beauty of it. We got to discuss for 12 and a half minutes now what kind of situation this is. And a Cam Talbot trade to the Oilers is a good move for the Wild based on where they're dealing from, right? I'm not saying this has to happen. I'm saying if it were to happen, Bill Guerin is the arm up, the leverage up on Ken Holland in this transaction. Folks, I'm Yak. This is Clemhawks. I am up on Oda here.